the driver is like pointing at me, laughing, being like, ha, and the passenger is holding a machine gun in his hand, and he's not laughing. He's looking in the desert. And at this stage, I'm like, like looking again, like on the Quince, I'm like, right, this is exactly what I thought would not happen, and it is happening to me on the first day.
What's up, nomads? Welcome to your new favorite travel podcast, Two Beers Till Takeoff, the podcast that delivers expert knowledge, the information you won't get in your guidebooks, and a story that's guaranteed to make you say, what the fuck, or your money back.
B, you know our episodes are free, right?
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff. My name is Phil and I'm here with my co-host,
Mr. Brandon.
What is going on with you, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm chilling, really excited to get another episode in. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I spent the weekend at the beach. It was like 40 degrees or like 104 Fahrenheit in Canada. That's like crazy. Our igloos are melting. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Hey, I saw something this weekend that I've never understood. I can't even explain how crazy it is. I saw an old man in a mall, and he looked one way, and then he looked the other way. And then he took a swig of what I thought was alcohol, but it was actually a maple syrup bottle. I'm not fucking kidding.
God.
The most Canadian thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's like seeing Santa Claus in real life.
Yeah. But anyways, super pumped for our guest. Yes, it's going to be a great episode, guys.
Yes. So let me introduce our illustrious guest. So back in May of 2021, I was down in Tulum at one of my favorite hostels, Mama's Home, and was talking to this fine fellow here. And he was telling me he was getting ready to take a bicycle journey from Seattle all the way down to Argentina. And I thought it was one of the most adventurous things one can do. And so I was like, dude, how can I follow your journey? And so we've stayed in contact ever since. And now that I'm hosting a travel podcast, him on as a guest to kind of walk us through his journey. So without further ado, everybody, I want to introduce you to my good friend, Pierre. Yeah.
Woo! What's up? Yeah.
Welcome, my friend.
I'm good. I'm in the south of France at the moment, just enjoying the sunset and the warm temperatures, and also finally to not be cycling again. So that's actually it's expanding my visions. I can do and think about something else, which is great as well.
I bet. How long was the journey?
So in total, like from Seattle back to Seattle, I mean, we'll get into this later, but it was exactly a year and 3 weeks. So
A year and 3 weeks?
That's crazy.
That's it, yeah.
Holy
So it's true that
shit.
So yeah, like most people who do this trip, they usually take, it's a year and a half or 2 years. And I was like, I think I wanted to pack it up in a year because then I get bored and I get into this routine thing that I actually wanted to escape in the first place. I mean, in my opinion, like when you travel is to escape routines of your, life that you have back home.
Right.
But then after a year of doing the same, I felt, or including in past trips, I feel like you're in the end in a form of routine again. And so I'm like, I think a year is good for me.
Got you. That's a fucking journey, man. So what prompted you to start this journey?
Yeah, so like,
Did you lose a bet?
I mean, since
You said
Sorry?
what?
Did you lose a bet? That's how you had to do that?
No, like so the thing is like no, I didn't lose a bet, but it was it was just like the fact that I always kind of want to mix traveling and work. So I'm like working for 2-3 years here, then traveling for a year, and then I'm working again. And so the thing is, in this case, I was working in Africa for initially 2 to 3 years, and then it lasted almost 4 years, also with COVID and everything. And so I was more eager than ever to go back on the road. In this particular case, I was always thinking, I think I want to go this route just for the challenge from Alaska to the south of Argentina, which is called Ushuaia
Jesus
or
Christ.
Tierra del Fuego. And so the main question that I was actually asking myself was more, how do I want to travel? Do I want to do something by hitchhiking like before, or by motorbike? Because I learned how to drive a motorbike back in Africa. And then in the end, I was like, no, I think cycling is the best option because, well, there's an additional layer of challenge because obviously it's a bit more physical. You go through other issues than just like, sitting in the back of a bus. And also I did like 2 mini trips before, like a week, 10 days by bicycle. And I was like, yeah, I think that's the thing I want to do. Because it gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of independence that I think that's exactly what you want to look for when you're traveling, being completely free and independent rather than relying on other people when you hitchhike or in petrol when you're using an engine and everything. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this thing. Let's try and we'll see. Like if I really dislike it or I feel like it's too long or too much, I can always quit, But in my head, I was like, nah, if I start, it's gonna be until the end for sure.
Right.
So I did it.
So Pierre, I'm wondering. So you mentioned you did a couple little trips before, setting out on the big adventure. Did you do any type of training? Like, did you go through like cycling training, like weight training, like?
So I was always cycling a little bit. So since I'm like 13, 14, I was like with my dad. We went on like little day trips, and then I was like part of a cycling club in Paris for 2 years, which I didn't really like for this precise reason. It's like you're not really free to do whatever you want. You need to train, you need to go to the races. It's a bit stressful. It's a bit, like you're forcing yourself to do things, and that's not a bicycle I like. The bicycle I like is like, I want to go out and discover, what's around my house for 100 kilometers, and I come back, and that's it. But so to answer your question, I didn't do any specific training. I'm just, in an okay shape. I've always been doing sports, and then the physical condition that you need to do this trip, you get it while you do the trip.
Yeah.
That's a question that I actually got a lot, and people think that you need to have like an amazing level of cycling. You don't. Well, the first is like I just said, you get the physical condition as you go, and also it's not about going fast; it's about going far. So you can only do like 60 kilometers a day if you want, or 80 or 100, and that's okay. Like you don't need to do like a Tour de France stage every day in the French Alps. So in the end, you don't need to be fast, and your condition will come. So you're good.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And Pierre, another question, kind of to follow up with that one. So I don't bike very often, but when I do, my ass hurts. Maybe a bit TMI, but my ass hurts for like a week later. I don't know if it's my seat that sucks or I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
It's the seat.
But did you encounter anything like that, like into your journey, like injuries and stuff like that?
So, well, thank God I didn't fall once. I mean, I fell once, but it was a bit of shame. Like it was a really lame fall. I'm not sure if I should talk about it, but otherwise, no injuries, nothing. The thing is, same thing. So you will also get used to it. So if these things, if you experience pain on your ass or like in the back of your neck, for example, or just on your regular back, then like sometimes there's a few weeks of like you just need to adapt yourself to the cycling life. Then if it still continues, then indeed, like maybe your saddle is not good enough. Maybe your bike is a bit too small. Maybe you have the wrong position on the bike with the way you put your arms, so it's a bit too long. Or there's a few things like this. But same thing. Usually it goes away, and then you just get used to it. Some saddles exist. Like for example, I don't know if we are allowed to mention brands, but I think I should mention that brand. It is the Brook saddle made of leather, so it's like the B12, I think, but whatever. So this saddle will imitate the shape of your body after a few, let's say 500 or 1,000 kilometers, and then you don't even think about the fact that you're sitting on something. It's just
really?
It's like the shape of your butt, basically.
Here, that's what I gotta get.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you need to go like for long distances, these like leather things are just amazing because then it's exactly the shape of your ass.
How much stretching and things did you need to do to continue the journey? Like, I know you didn't really need to do too much to prepare, but what did you need to do to make sure that you can continue and have the stamina? And, did you have to stretch after every day and things like that?
No, I think the stretching, I didn't stretch at all. Like, I don't think I stretched once.
Okay.
I don't believe in stretching.
But no stretching. So if you're listening to us, don't stretch. That's useless. But what you do need to do though, and this is very important, you need to eat. If I have like one tip to give to any cyclists in the world, day trip people or year-long trips, you need to eat constantly. The secret is to eat before you're even hungry. You need to just like eat constantly because you're gonna burn all the calories anyway. By the way, like during this year, I could eat whatever I wanted. I knew that the calories would be burned. So that's the thing, to not get tired. You need to eat before you're hungry, and then after. So like after you're done, you eat until you're full, and then yeah, and the next morning you'll be okay.
Right.
And sometimes it's more like I need to go back, do the same like yesterday again. It's more like, oh yeah, like it's again cycling again in the same region, which sometimes, well, from the landscape is exactly the same like the day before, like for example in Patagonia or some parts of Mexico. It's just exactly the same of what happened yesterday. So it's more like a mental, let's say, strength that you need to have to like continue doing the same again.
So,
but physically, it's right.
no, so what? So speaking of food, what did you do about water? Because I know traveling in a lot of these Latin American countries, you can't just go to the tap and drink water. You need to be a lot more strategic. So what did you do for water to make sure that you could have enough on for the day or whatever?
Yeah, so I have many stories that I could link up with water, but maybe like the one that was like the little bell that was telling me like, okay, Pierre, this was not good what you just did. It was actually pretty early in the trip. It was so in June 2021, the US were going from heat wave to heat wave. I crossed the US from Seattle to the border of Mexico within a month, like 30 or 33 days, with not a single drop of rain.
Yeah.
Like no clouds, no rain, nothing. Maybe like some clouds made of forest fires, but like, yeah. And so I was in, I think it was either Oregon or Idaho, can't remember, but I was thinking, I look on a map and like the next town is in 70 kilometers. So I think I'm okay. And I could see on the map that there was some farmland. And so this farmland, I'm thinking, well, necessarily just in case I don't have enough water, there'll be houses, there'll be people. But no, so like, because it's like 40 degrees outside, so like 100 Fahrenheit, my water goes down like in a second. At some point I'm like, wow, I don't have any water anymore. And there's nothing. I mean, there's actually just farmland, but without houses. And there was maybe like one or two houses that were there, but like I knocked on the door, there was no one. At some point I see a pump in the distance. I'm like, oh yeah, a little pump. So I just started like activating the pump and some water comes out. It's pretty clear, but smells funny. So I'm like, I'm so thirsty. Like there's nothing else I can do. Like, so I just take a sip anyway, but like very slowly, not to drink too much. And I'm still really, really looking for water. And I don't know if you've ever been really thirsty, but past a certain point, you can think about nothing else. It's like water, water, water. It's just like the constant thought about like, when can I get water? When can I drink? I don't want to be thirsty again or anymore. And so I started to look on the side of the highway, look into the trash, because sometimes there's a bit of water left in 2 bottles that people throw from the window. This was how bad it was.
Wow.
Holy shit.
And then suddenly, so I'm like, so I could have perhaps stopped cars, but then like if no one stops, then you just lost time until the next time where you can drink. So I was like, let me just try to continue. And then on the side of the highway, suddenly there is this little bottle of water, unopened, of like perfect water. I'm like, I am saved. It was like an unopened bottle of water on the side of the highway.
It's like a magic bottle of water.
So, yeah, like I'm not religious, but if I were, or if I was, it would be like, God help me and send me this bottle from the sky.
Maybe you were just so dehydrated. It was just like a Corona on the side of the road. You just thinking it's a bottle of water.
No, but it actually existed. And so from that day, to answer your question now, like I was really studying well the map and being like, okay, like I don't want to be that thirsty again. And so I packed some additional bottles of water. I had some aquatabs, things that purifies water if it's not good for drinking. And I was really anticipating a lot, depending on where I was.
Okay, so you would just prepare when you got to the next town or whatever. You would just make sure to prepare and fill up on water to hopefully last you until the next time.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like I really had to look into details, not just rely on, it looks like there's farmland. No, you need to know if there's a town that has a tap. I mean, that would have a tap because it's a town. So yeah.
And then you
Pierre,
were
so I know with like, you know, these big journeys comes body transformation, right? It's not something that you were doing for a month. It was something you were doing for over a year. So I guess maybe tell us a bit about the before and after, and how jacked exactly were you at the end?
So before starting the trip, my weight was 75 kilos, and I was I had like some good shoulders, good arms. I was okay. Again, like doing sports and everything. But very quickly, like within I think a month, I like clearly lost like muscles and a upper part and gained muscles in my legs, which was just a little bit less sexy. But you know what? You know, I'm not doing this for a magazine. So yeah, like lost muscles down there, up there, and like gained muscles. Let's say my legs. But then I also lost weight, so I was like pretty quickly at 70 kilos. Which is, so I'm 187, so 6'2". So 75 is, I think, an okay weight. 70 was like the weight that I had when I was 18, 20 years old. So I was like, wow, this is really low. It didn't go any much lower. And then it came back because we're again at 75. And now, like, I don't know, I think within a month of me finishing this trip, my body must have been like, oh, wow, now we need to get more food and, like pack up all the lost calories. And so then I put myself on the weight scale at home, and it was surprisingly at 80. I was like, why am I at 80? I just finished a cycling trip. And so I think, I just packed up all the calories again, and 80 is still okay. But I might try to go back to 75. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you could just jump back on a bike, right? And then you're just right back to, you've got the recipe.
Go from France to Beijing or something like that, and then aim for 75.
Right, well, anyways, if you decide to do it, I'd love to have you back on. This has been lovely up to date.
Yeah.
All right.
Another question I have for you, Pierre, is just maybe to help people that are maybe listening to, because you will inspire some people to potentially do this. Can you give some insight on budgeting for this type of trip? A year-long trip is something that you don't do every single day, and it's you're dealing probably with a lot of different currencies every country that you're going through. Can you maybe give us a few tips and an overview of the budgeting?
So this is like very proper to cycling trips. They are cheap trips. The initial investment is important because you need a good bike, you need a good tent, a good mattress, a good sleeping bag, because you need to rest properly, and good clothes for cold weather, warm weather, and everything. So there's an initial investment to make. That's more important than if you start hitchhiking, for example. Then once you start the trip, you're saving on two very big budget parts, which is transport. You don't spend anything on transport for obvious reasons, and also nothing on accommodation. So I was doing a lot of couch surfing and warm showers. So warm showers is like the same than couch surfing, just for cyclists. So it's like the cycling community helping cycling travelers. And then I had my tent. So whenever these two solutions were not working, I was just like camping somewhere on the way. So this is like erasing a lot of spendings that could add up pretty quickly. And then like my main budget of spendings were like water. I mean not water, but like food and water. Sometimes we had to pay water. And then of course in my case the party budget. So sometimes we're beers or other little bottle of liquor, but that's just because you need to enjoy yourself. Not just a cycling machine. But that's it. Yeah, it's a pretty cheap trip, especially in these countries where the food doesn't cost anything. So you're really not spending much in the end.
So can you give us a ballpark figure of how much this type of trip could cost?
So in my case, like I'm surprised. I think I still need to do the math because I think there's some flight expenses or like preparation for the Canadian visa that pack in. But for some reason, I think over the last year, like I must have spent something like $10,000. But it seems a lot to me. So like I might need to recalculate this because it seems a little high. But let's say apart from like unusual spendings like flight tickets or issues that you have with the bike, you're pretty easy on a $10 per day budget.
Wow.
So that's all right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, but again, then you have to like be a lot in a tent, and some people just need a bit more comfort. I'm pretty low in when it comes to comfort zones. I'm like, anything works.
Yeah, most backpackers are. We can sacrifice a lot.
Q&A.
Q&A. All right, Pierre, hot or cold?
Hot or cold?
Mm-hmm. Just general. Just answer hot or cold.
Hot.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Oh, mountain. 100% mountain.
Okay.
Can I develop or it's
Sure.
just like that?
Yeah.
All right. So I think before this trip, I was like, I like both. You know, there's pros and cons in both. But after this trip, like to me, beaches are just like beaches. It's always the same. It never really changes. I mean, maybe sometimes. But to me, mountains are just fascinating. Like every single curve within the same mountain in the same day looks different. They things change so quickly, and I'd rather like cycle on mountains much more than coasts or coastlines, which are really I mean, they can get pretty quickly boring. I think so. After this trip, I'm definitely a mountain guy more than beach guy.
Got you.
good
Okay.
answer.
Very good answer. All right. This one has
Thanks.
nothing to do with your journey, but bus or train?
Bus or train? I prefer the train. It's
Okay.
more stable.
Cats or dogs?
Fuck, definitely cats. I hate dogs after this trip. I fucking hate them all. Like you can't imagine how like obsessed I was with just like the opportunity to maybe one day be able to kill a dog because I just like hated them so much. Like it is.
SPCA, please don't be.
It sounds-
ASPCA, please don't be listening. Please don't be.
Right.
Honestly, it sounds, well, maybe it's a bit exaggerated now, but like
No, yeah.
I've been. You need to imagine 1,000 of kilometers, especially in countries like I think the worst country was Peru when it came to dogs. Just like every single kilometer, and sometimes many within a kilometer that just like run after you, bark at you, try to bit you. In Peru, 4 times they bit my luggage. They were like biting my luggage
Oh
as I'm
my
cycling. I was like,
God.
what the hell is going on? And it's just, I mean, in developed countries like like the States or like France, the dogs are behind fences or they're in leashes, so they're not really an issue. And they have, I think they're also a bit more trained to be like, okay, don't attack anything that just like runs in front of the house. But in South America, I tell you what, this really is an issue. I think it was the only negative part of my trip. It was dogs.
Wow.
Nothing else was negative. That bad. So yeah,
I can see
definitely
that.
cats.
Because those street dogs, they are. I mean, I haven't experienced any vicious street dogs, but they're just out there roaming freely, you know. So I can totally see them attacking the hell out of you. All right, next is top or bottom bunk.
Top or bottom what? Bunk.
Bunk.
I'll go bottom.
Okay.
Then yeah.
Has to drive the ship.
Favorite sports team.
I'll go for Barcelona. Although without Messi, I don't know, maybe Manchester City.
Okay. Okay. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
That'd be to fly. Just fly around.
So you don't have to
Some
fight.
wings in the back. So, yeah, so I can see the planet Earth from up there. In the air.
Right. Finally proved that the Earth is not flat.
Yeah.
All right. When doing trips like this, what's one item you couldn't do without besides your bike?
It would definitely be the tent, I think. Could be a
Okay.
tent, yeah, because then in the middle of nowhere, how are you gonna sleep if it's raining and shit? So yeah, tent.
Okay. Good answer. Which country on your journey had the best cuisine?
Yeah, Mexico, I'd say.
That's a
Although
good
the
one.
meat in Argentina was really amazing, but I think in terms of diversity of cuisine, I'd say Mexico. Yeah, every single state had a different specialty, which was really good. So, yeah, Mexico.
Okay. Now, this next one can be about your journey, but it can also just be your answer could be overall. What's your biggest travel pet peeve?
My biggest trouble, what?
Pet peeve, like annoyance, basically. Like what annoys you when you travel? Besides the street dogs in,
Well, dogs,
in Latin
eh?
America.
Besides from street dogs,
Okay.
I think very, very specifically. I mean, besides dogs, there was also just COVID absolute bullshit. Which was when you have to cross like 16 different borders, every border has a different requirement for COVID things, and honestly, it was just complete nonsense. It's just yeah, and also like wearing the mask every time, all the time. It was another annoyance. Yeah.
I got you. Okay. Another one that can be about your journey or just an overall travel answer. Tell us your best travel hack.
Best travel hack. That was definitely in Canada. In parts where there's no shops, where there is where it's like actually hard to buy some food.
Mhm.
My little travel hack, but that works only if the outside weather is cold. Is to look into the bins that are on the side of the highway on the rest areas. You look into the bins, and honestly, they are like little fridges where people put some food for you, and then you just pick inside the fridge and get food. And it is honestly amazing. So I've been dumpster diving back in Australia in 2016, 2017, but like behind supermarkets. So you think, oh yeah, well, supermarkets, they manage their food like they can, and they have to throw away things. It's still very absurd what you can find in these bins, but you kind of understand how it works. In this particular case, along the highway, you're like, people paid money for this food. They paid for it, and it's still wrapped up. The date is still in like a week, and they threw it away anyway. And so you're like, why? Why do you throw this food away? It's like, it just doesn't make any sense, but it helped me. I didn't have to shop that often,
Okay.
especially in parts where I couldn't shop anyway because there were no shops. So
All right. That's a travel hack
was a
I
good hack.
probably won't ever have to use, but that's actually very good and smart. If it's cold, if it's
never know.
cold.
Wait till you come to Canada, buddy. You're fucked.
Right.
Straight to the freezer.
All right. Okay. What is the most underrated country in your opinion? Could be worldwide.
I think it's El Salvador.
Okay.
It's El Salvador, or well, maybe worldwide. It might be Comoros. I think they're still pretty nice, but like, let's say on the trip, very few people go to El Salvador just because they think or they heard sometimes from people who themselves have not been to El Salvador that it is a dangerous country. And
Mhm.
let me just come back on this idea of a dangerous country. To me, that means nothing, but like 0, 0. It's like, what do you think? What does it mean a dangerous country? Is it like a place where you pass the border and you get killed instantly, where people like shoot all the time? It doesn't work like this. Millions of people live in this country and have a job and, like eat food and go to bed and everything. So to me, this idea makes no sense. But especially for Salvador, people were not going there because they thought it was too dangerous for them, which it isn't. If you're like a smart traveler, you anticipate dangerous situations. You know who you are, where you are, what you do, what to not do, and that's sufficient.
Right.
But so Salvador, yeah, had like beautiful people just because there's no tourism. So there's like way more authentic when you talk to them.
Wow.
And they were like, yeah, beautiful lakes, volcanoes, and beaches that are perfectly unknown.
Well,
Okay.
So yeah,
And
don't
Pierre,
trust people who tell you a place that means nothing.
what was the other spot you said, Pierre? Like I'm very
that's the
interested
place where I lived.
in looking into El Salvador. I'm not overlooking that. I'm just you mentioned another spot.
Yeah, I mentioned Comoros. So Comoros is the place which I mentioned before. So it's little island country that is in between Madagascar and the African coast.
Wow. Okay.
It is very small. Like the biggest island is like 60 kilometers long. It used to be a French colony who took its independence in 1975. And it is underrated because, well, nobody knows that it even exists. That's what I was saying before. So this is a country, Comoros. And so it is very poor, very dysfunctional. Like the roads are bad, airports are bad, hospitals are bad. There's very poor water, energy, waste management.
You're really
which
selling
comes
it for
with,
me.
Yeah. So this is not good. This is obviously a very poor African country, but in the same time, they have less than 3,000 tourists per year,
Oh,
which
wow.
is nothing again. And I think among these 3,000, there must be the people who have like work permits or who go there on a business trip. And honestly, the nature there is really stunning. I mean, you have like some nice parts of jungle. There's a volcano. There's like amazing beaches.
Wow.
The submarine life is just incredible. And again, like you're not going to see any tourists there because it's not a touristic place. And I think that's what I'm looking for now. Like just stop going to places like,
France.
well, Thailand or Paris. Yeah, I mean, I go there for other reasons, but yeah, like go to places where no one go. There are not that many anymore, but that's the thing I would do now.
Right.
Yeah, great advice.
Okay. What is a country on your journey that you would like to go back and explore more, like spend more time there?
I think it would be Colombia. I really enjoyed Colombia.
Yeah.
The energy in the streets, the people, the fact that also it's has a big cycling culture. Like bicycles are just part of the culture there.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think there's still a few parts that I didn't cover. So
Okay.
why not?
Yeah, I love Colombia as well. All right. Where did you experience the least friendly locals?
People, not dogs.
It was somewhere in. Sorry,
People, not dogs.
in Comoros. I know. Yeah, not dogs. It was in a little remote town in Bolivia where sometimes you go to towns where you feel like everyone is nice to you, and sometimes you get the exact opposite feeling where every single interaction you have is just negative. It's just like you enter a restaurant, the waiter is not nice to you. You're asking for your way. People tell you to look on your phone. You then like ask another person where to sleep, and they just say, I don't know, like, I don't care. And it was this, I don't even know what the name was, but it was just, bad vibes of this tiny little town in Bolivia. But otherwise, Bolivia was fine, but that little town, don't know what it had.
Must have been the water. All right. What's your favorite cocktail?
Cocktail.
Yeah.
Well, I really like mojitos, but
Yeah.
anything strong.
Yeah. We were getting fucked up off that tequila that time in Tulum.
Yeah. Mezcal, not tequila.
I think it was. Well, I remember buying the tequila. I went and bought that Don Julio and brought it back. Like let me splurge on my friends one time. That shit's super cheap out there compared to what I drink here. All right.
Yeah, dude.
Where have you found your cheapest pint?
Cheapest pint. It must. I think it could have been in Colombia too. Maybe in this bar in Medellin, but I'm not sure if it was the cheapest. I need to compare,
Right.
but maybe it was Colombia. Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the reason why I like Colombia.
You're right here.
Of course.
All right. Where in the world is your favorite bar and why?
Favorite bar. It's in Laos. There was this bar, and it's not Vien. No, I think it's in Luang Prabang. This place where this bar just had everything. They had like very cheap prices, good music, good people. It was overlooking the Mekong. I had a volleyball field within the bar where you could just play volleyball.
Oh wow.
And I had a really good time there. I went there only once though, so can't remember the name.
That sounds good.
It was a good bar.
I fucking can't wait to get myself back out to Southeast Asia. And every time I hear about a country in Southeast Asia, I'm like, oh, I gotta get out there.
Maybe Pierre could influence you to take a little bike trip.
No, I don't know. I don't know about that one, man. I'll do a motorcycle trip, but not a cycling trip. No, I won't write that off. I won't write that off. I wouldn't do like a year-long thing, but I would do, through a country. If I was to be invited to do something like that, I wouldn't pass the opportunity.
Tour de Brandon.
Tour de Brandon.
Tour de Brandon.
Story time.
Yeah, so like the initial idea was to go from Alaska to Argentina. Or do you say Argentina? No,
I said
kidding.
Argentina. Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
So yeah, to Argentina. But then back in June 2021, I couldn't cross the Canadian borders, who were closed for a while. And so then I just decided to start in Seattle because that was the most northern part I could start from. And so I just started from Seattle. And so many people think I went through California and then into Mexico, went to Baja California, but I actually went more inland, like to through Salt Lake City, then Phoenix, Tucson, before crossing into Mexico. And I must say that the States, so I like the States, there's no issues with this, but I feel like the part of this trip wasn't that exciting. It was a bit more like, all right, like I wasn't meeting as many people as I thought I would. It was just very normal, not that adventurous, I felt like. But then as soon as I crossed the border to Mexico, then it was like, wow, okay, now that I think the trip really started, it was a completely different culture and so many unexpected situations happened.
So Pierre, where exactly did you cross the border in Mexico? Because I know a lot of those neighboring or the border cities are actually like quite dangerous. Like there's like Ciudad de Juarez. There's like what's the other crazy one there by San Diego, Brandon?
I don't know.
Tijuana. Like that's like one of the like murder capitals of the world.
Is it?
Yeah, so maybe like indeed, so this part of the border is indeed a bit unsafe for. So there's two main reasons here. There's like the drug smuggling cartels and then like migration issues. So yeah, like those things like don't make the borders in general very safe. Like the place where I crossed was Nogales, so in between Arizona and Sonora. So it's not too famous, and well, the first few hours of crossing were okay, but so the day, and so yeah, as I was saying, so there's a little story that happened that day, my first day in Mexico. So the day before, I stopped in a little town on the Arizona side called Patagonia, funnily enough. And so I was thinking, I'm going to stop right before the border so that the next day I can go as far as possible from the border and just like, keep cycling and just go far from the place. And then as I'm on this very boring highway called Ruta 15, so like highway number 15, which is like very straight and very warm and very boring. I think there was one spot I had like 250 kilometers of straight lines, like not a single curve where you can just like see the highway, just, go forever.
That's depressing. It must be tough on the mental.
It is. All the people would tell me like, oh yeah, you're cycling. That's amazing. I would love to do this. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you would love to do everything that I do because sometimes it's just boring as hell.
Fuck.
But anyway, so on this highway, I am like just there and there's a car who stops 50 or 70 meters away from me. And so I'm like, all right, well, cars stop for whatever reason. Sometimes people want to give a call, take a nap, check on the engine or something like this. So I'm not going to stop for every car who stops on the highway. And so as I pass the car myself, I just like look over my shoulder and like sort of everything happens within a second where I look over my shoulder, I just do a little, hey, what's up? And as I do this, I see that the driver is like pointing at me, laughing, being like, ha. And the passenger is holding a machine gun in his hand and he's not laughing. He's looking in the desert. And at this stage, I'm like, like looking again, like on the Ruta 15, I'm like, right, this is exactly what I thought would not happen. And it is happening to me on the first day. So I'm like, what are these guys? Where's this guy laughing? Where's this guy with the automatic machine gun, just behind me? And so
yeah, you
like,
probably,
well, I'm like,
you probably expected this to happen in the US, right?
Yeah, I was thinking, some rednecks in the middle of Idaho, but no, it happened to me at the northern border of Mexico. And so I was, as we say in French, I was like a cow in a corridor. Like if they want to shoot me, if they want to do anything, I have like nowhere to go. I'm just in the middle of the highway. There's like desert here, desert there. There's nowhere to hide. So I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And so I'm just cycling for another 100 meters. And at some point I'm like turning again to see like what they were doing. And thank God they were just doing a U-turn on the highway and heading back up north. I'm like, thank God. Still, I was like very like, what the hell just happened? I didn't imagine this machine gun. It was there and this dude was laughing at it for some reason. So I then asked some people in Mexico later on, I was like, what just happened? Like, this is a very, to me at least, very weird situation. And they were like, oh, this is very clear. These guys were narcos and they were checking on you to know what you were doing on their territory. So although I was on the highway, not on any like particular place, well, I was still crossing someone's territory and someone must have seen me and then like said like, hey, who is this weird dude on a bicycle with the black bags? Like maybe, who is he? And so then like some guy must have asked these guys, probably sicarios or something like this, just to check on me to see who I am. And then they see me and then the driver is like, hi, fucking terrorist, and he just laughs and then like this turn. And then, so to me, I will never know exactly what happened, but to me, this analysis of what happened sort of adds up. I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Dude, that's scary.
So yeah, this was my welcome to Mexico story.
As a rule of thumb, I guess, like just to make sure that you're not competition, the wave to the narco probably was it was probably your way through. So people, if you are trafficking and you do see a narco, wave to them. Make sure that you look like you're a tourist and that you're nice.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Dude,
yeah.
that's scary as shit.
Holy shit.
Yeah, had I shown the middle finger, I'd probably be dead by now, but thank God I waited.
Damn, dude. Fucking hey.
Yeah, that's
But so this is just like a very weird example of what otherwise didn't happen to me in Mexico and never happened to me again anywhere in the world after this. So it's just like very, very weird, sort of unexpected. And well, in the end, nothing happened, because as I always say, like narcos, they're professionals, like just
Right.
don't mess with them. And if you don't mess with them, there's no reason for them to kill you. They're not murderers. They're just guys who defend a business, and that's it. Like so. I wasn't scared of narcos. I was again scared of dogs and
Dogs and
trucks.
trucks.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm sure that had they decided to kill you based on whatever reason, it probably attracts more attention by killing you than actually letting you go.
Of course.
Absolutely, these guys have issues already with the police. They don't want to have like a tourist, a dead tourist on the road because of them, and then like they have to explain what happened. So they're not looking for trouble. I think not for this at least.
Damn, that's
So, yeah.
scary, man.
But otherwise, Mexico was fine. I mean, I really had a blast. It was nice. As I said before, like in terms of cuisine, it was very different in every state I was going to. Some places very, very heavily touristy, like Puerto Escondido in Oaxaca or Acapulco, or like in this place in San Cristobal de las Casas, but still very, very beautiful. And some other parts that are equally as beautiful with absolutely no tourists. So yeah, that was a pretty good experience too. Should I then like move on from country to country,
Sure,
or
I just have one question, I guess, to kind of transition you here, Pierre. So like, you're going through fucking continents at this point. How do you decide really where you're going? Are you deciding like, oh, I want to go see these type of things? Or are you looking more like journey wise? Like, are you looking like, oh, it's a bit shorter to go this way? Like, how are you deciding where you're going?
So that's the thing. So like, I didn't have a clear idea of where I wanted to go. I wasn't going to make 1,000-kilometer detours just to see a ruin or something like this. Like, I still kind of wanted to keep it, in a logical way, like not too long. But at the same time, I was also like talking a lot to people that I just met, or to hosts, or to locals. And when they were telling me like, oh, you should go and see this place. And if it wasn't too far from the most logical route, well, then I would just go there. And also, maybe that's another tip for cycling people. It would be like to always take the least travel road, because then you have less traffic, and it's like, yeah, less travel in general. It's like more comfortable when you're cycling. And so it was a combination of everything. It was like, well, not too many kilometers, of course, not too many people, then recommendations of people. Then day by day, there was like, yeah, doing my route. But sometimes I see on some WhatsApp groups, people who say, I just landed in Quito. Can you guys recommend me how to go to Argentina? I'm like, this is the purpose of your trip. This is like, you need to make your own route. You're not going to ask people on a WhatsApp group where to go, where to turn left and right. That makes no sense. But well, anyway. So I was doing this like day by day.
Very nice.
And so were you using technology? Like, were you using a phone to like kind of GPS your way? Okay, you're using your phone?
Yeah. So I was like downloading my maps before on my phone, just Google Maps. And then yeah, if I didn't have any network, it was sufficient to just like know where I was and know where to go.
Yeah.
It was pretty basic.
Yeah, great resource.
Cool.
So after Mexico, you decided to go into Belize, or?
So Belize is the only country where I didn't go. Well, one, because it's a bit off the road. You would have to make a big detour towards east. And same thing with just COVID times. So I think you weren't allowed to enter with a bicycle for some reason. And also, and it's like even more absurd, you had to exit the country from the same, in the same place where you entered from, like the same border checkpoint. And so it was like, yeah, that makes no sense. Then just like double detour, then you come back to the same place. So I was like, yeah, Belize is going to be for another time. So I went into Mexico, into Guatemala. So Guatemala, yeah, like way more hilly, a lot of volcanoes. There was this place in the Acatenango volcano that was probably one of the most amazing parts of my trip, where so Guatemala has like 1,000 different volcanoes and mountains. But so this is probably the thing you shouldn't miss if you go there. It's like two mountains facing each other. There's the Volcan Acatenango, climbing at almost 4,000 meters. You go there, you camp at 3,600. And then you're, let's say, in a straight line, a kilometer away from the Volcan de Fuego, so the fire volcano, which is active, which has always been active, and it has like about 20 eruptions per hour. So you're just like there, and you see the eruptions the entire day with the smoke, with the ashes. Then in the same time after once the sunset happens, then you see the lava, you see the red thing, and it just goes on the entire night, of course. And so you're permanently getting waken up by the noise that it makes, and it's just this like show done by Mother Nature the entire time. And it's I had never experienced an eruption before, and of course not that close, and in the same time it's safe and everything. So it was just like one of the most fascinating
Pierre, you
moments of my
did
trip, I
that
think.
without a guide as well, right?
Yeah, so I really dislike guides. If I go in a mountain, I want to be alone, or like just, I mean, especially on these mountains where there's just tons of tourists, the trails are just self-evident. You cannot miss the trail. It's impossible. And so I'm like, why should I pay for a guide that I don't want to be with, showing me a trail that is perfectly clear to follow? So it's like double nonsense to me. So yeah, I always try to do hikes without guides.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did that same hike, but I did it with a guide. And I remember watching your stories, and I'm like, this dude is doing it without a guide. Like, how the fuck is he doing this?
with a fucking bike on his
Right,
back,
exactly.
bench pressing it.
Yeah, no. I love the bike in a little restaurant.
Going to swim in the fucking volcano to wash off.
No, but some people were getting like so close. I was seeing like during the night, I was seeing some, I don't know, torches or headlamps that were going really, really close to the actual lava. I'm like, how is this possible? So I asked this guy, this like sort of guide for another group, and he said like, yeah, but they shouldn't be doing this, but some tourists come there and just pay the guide much more so they can approach the lava, and it's just nonsense. But then the more they pay, the closer they get, sort of, which is
That's crazy.
Just natural selection.
Yeah. Darwinism.
yeah. Exactly. It's like the people who die doing a selfie. It's like, yeah, well, you know what? Natural
Guess
selection.
you won't
too.
get to post it.
No, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, and so after Guatemala, there was like there was this El Salvador place that I already talked about. Then there was a quick section of Honduras. So Honduras is like sort of oddly shaped. It's like very, very small in the south, and it goes like very big in the north. So just like crossed Honduras in the southern part. There was just like 4 days. Same thing, Honduras, everyone tells you, wow, the most dangerous country and maybe in the world. And it just isn't. I mean, it's just like one of these places where there's just less tourists and people are just nicer because they're more interested in who you are to come to their place. But I cannot say that I really know Honduras very well because it was a very tiny part. So we're just 4 days. So it was short. After this, there was Nicaragua. So Nicaragua was a bit similar to Guatemala in some cases, with also volcanoes and lakes. It was specifically this Lago Ometepe, like a huge, massive lake in the middle of the country. Just I think the politics there were completely fucked. I mean, it was just like very clear dictatorship from the same family for the last 30, 40, maybe even 50 years. Was something that I didn't know. There was in 2018, which is like just basically yesterday, there was some shootings on the streets against students who were just like demonstrating because they disagreed on something, and the students just all got shot in the streets, and just like a massive repression from the military and everything. And I wasn't aware of it. It was like, why this happened in 2018? So this gave me like a pretty bad impression of the country as regime, of course, but it's probably the toughest dictatorship on the continent, I'd say. But so no freedom of speech, expression. It was just only one political party, basically.
Worse than Venezuela?
Good question. In terms of political toughness, I'm not sure. But one thing is easier there is the economy that still works, sort of. There's not a,
they have the oil industry,
global distrust, and yeah, exactly. So I think they're better off on that side. But in terms of policies, I don't think it's much better. But yeah, but also I think also Nicaragua had the best roads for some reason. Maybe the communist policies were like, all right, let's do some good roads for the guys. And so they were like the smoothest, most maybe recent roads that I had on this trip. So the best roads on the entire continent.
Wow, okay, that's a surprise.
Pretty unexpectedly. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me too. And then also very flat. So as compared to Guatemala and everything was just constantly flat, 40 meters elevation. And then you get into Costa Rica, and Costa Rica for me was a bit of a disappointment just because, well, one, people, when you constantly hear about a place being like, oh, this is the best country, this is so nice. Well, like almost physically, you have your expectations that are here, and then if they aren't met, well, then it's basically like, yeah, pretty much quickly lower, and then you're like, oh, I thought it'd be better and everything, but I understood why people like it, because it's very, very easy to have like a beautiful postcard picture and one of these waterfalls and jungle and everything, but at the same time, well, what really upset me is that you have to pay for everything. Like the smallest waterfall, which would be completely for free in another place, there was like $20 to see it, just a waterfall. Yes, it is a beautiful waterfall, but in other places you have also nice waterfalls and they're just for free. You just go there and take a picture and dip in. And most of the waterfalls in Costa Rica couldn't even swim, which was for me like the main point. I wanted to swim in this waterfall and I couldn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there was this. There was it's a wealthy country. I'm like, is it actually wealthy? Like the infrastructure didn't look as good. The people didn't look much wealthier. And so I just recently read an article after being there that so they have like amazing policies in terms of no military, all the military budget into renewable energy and protection of wildlife and parks and forests. Yes, the forest has come back since the 80s to record high levels of just the forest surface on the country. But in the same time, these let's say all the budget that was allocated to these sort of protections weren't then allocated to, for example, social protection, to retirement, welfare, to jobless money and everything. And so in the end, sort of counterintuitively, these policies were creating gaps within a society. So yes, you have an amazing nature and you have like almost 100% access, 100% electricity that is produced by renewable energies. But at the same time, there's like big gaps in the society, which I could see as across the country. I'm like, the people aren't that wealthy. Like they're just like the neighboring countries, but the country does better in terms of tourism and everything. So yeah, mixed feelings for Costa Rica.
Actually headed there on Wednesday.
And it was okay, but
shit.
I was hoping that Pierre was going to rip it apart.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's the worst fucking place.
So I didn't rip it apart. I was just a little disappointed after all what I've heard being like the best place. And yeah, I just thought it was maybe a little overrated. Maybe also definitely more expensive than the other places. Of course, if you come from the US and you go to Costa Rica, like, everything is so cheap. But coming from places like Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, you're like, wow, like everything is like 3 times more expensive. And all right, why?
So Brandon, maybe temper expectations.
I mean, my expectations for places are always tempered because I don't want to ever be disappointed. And I've already heard mixed reviews about Costa Rica, so I'm already going in like it'll be what it is. You know what I mean? So. And I'm already going in knowing it's going to be expensive as fuck too, which I'm not looking forward to. But it is what it is.
Yeah. So right after this is Panama. So Panama, there's I think 2 main parts that are really interesting. Is in the north, Bocas del Toro, which is like really, really nice, like with just like beautiful beaches and blue water and amazing houses. So that was nice. Then it was a lot of nothing. Like there was like 5 days of cycling every single day, and like. Well, this Pan American highway, very, very warm. Yeah, it was just it was probably one of the warmest, hottest roads, I think, on the trip until you get to Panama City. So Panama City really does a bit look like Miami. It's just like, it's like massive cocaine buildings everywhere. How is this possible? But it's possible. There's like such big buildings everywhere. They're completely empty. Looks a bit suspicious. But at the same time, like funny place. Not so much to do, like apart from the Panama Canal to visit and to see, but yeah, this was the place where I was looking for how to cross to Colombia, because as you guys know, I guess, so it's impossible to cross by land. There's like this Darien Gap.
Yeah, that's the one part I was like, I'm excited to hear about how you cross the Darien Gap. If you did it by bicycle, you're my new hero. But I know it's almost impossible. Fuck.
Nah. That's it. So I think someone crossed it, I think either with a motorbike or also with a car back in the 80s. And I think they needed 300 days to do like 80 kilometers. So it would have been a trip in a trip. Like it's basically impossible. You have to go through this, like, I think there's mountains or like places with swamps, and just like it's very dangerous because of the animals that are there, but also because it's a zone basically without law. There's narco traffickers, there's FARCs, there's guerrilleros. And so, yeah, there's obviously no roads, no police that's going to help you there. So some migrants from South America will take that route, thinking it's easier for some reason to go then eventually to the United States. And well, like, of course, many people die, and it's a very sad decision they make, that thing to go through there.
It's like one of the most dangerous, it's one of the most dense jungles in the world, and it's one of the most dangerous land border crossings in the world too, right?
Wow.
Just because, like you mentioned, you have
for sure
the FARC group, which is like Colombian. What are they? They're Colombian, like a far left group.
Revolution, kind of group.
Like revolutionaries, and so it's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, it means Fuerzas Armadas de la Revolución de Colombia. So like Armed Forces of the Revolution of Colombia, something like that. And so these guys are not joking around. And if they see you there, they're just going to kill you without asking too many questions. So yes, definitely not the right place to go through. So then there was like two options left, or I had to take a boat or find a way to just cross by boat to Colombia, or take a plane. Of course, I wanted to avoid to take a plane because, like, it just was just as bad for the bike. Also, I kind of wanted to do everything either by land or by sea. And, but it was much quicker and much cheaper, but I just wanted by all means to try to cross by a boat. And so I was looking, so there's many websites that exist if you want to find a boat where to volunteer on. So there's Crew Bay, there's Spammer Crew, there is, I can't remember, there's other ones. And then I was asking through all my network on Facebook and WhatsApp and the people I just met, like if they knew someone who needed help on a boat that I could cross with. And then after like searching for weeks and weeks, I find the answer in the end on Facebook, where I was posting on some local groups. No one was answering me, but then there is a girl who makes a very, very similar post than I did. Well, she gets an answer. And so there's a captain who says to her, like, hey, if you want, I'm leaving from Panama on the 11th of November. And then we go to Cartagena in Colombia. And so I see this post. I'm like, wow, fuck, like she got an answer. And so I contact the girl immediately. And I'm like, hey, apparently you're going with him. So maybe do you think we can like work together on the boat and we go together? And she's like, oh no, actually I didn't even respond to him. I'm not going to go with him. Why? Because it's too late. It was like next week, and for her it was too late. I'm like, you have no idea how lucky you are that you got this boat and you got in touch with this captain, but whatever. Okay, so do you allow me to contact the captain and to tell him that you're not going to come? Yeah, sure. And so I contacted the captain and said this, and he's like, all right, you're welcome on the boat. It's like perfect. And so I had to just like volunteer on the boat for like 7 days.
Was it just like a rich guy?
Had to, like clean the boat. No, so it was one of these like trips that cross regularly as blue sailing. That's the name. They cross from Colombia to Panama back and forth.
The company I went.
So sometimes I look for volunteers.
So I did that journey from Colombia to Panama, and then I went through blue sailing.
Exactly, yeah. The thing is, these boats are pretty expensive. I mean, it's all inclusive. It's pretty nice and everything, but it's still $550 for 5 days. In the end, we had an issue with the engine. We had to actually sail. So it took like 7 days.
Fuck.
So I crossed for free, and I just had to, clean the boat, help the captain, mostly, like help in the kitchen to make breakfast, lunch, dinner, coffee break for like, we were, 14 passengers and 3 crew.
What was the name of who was the captain?
Umberto.
It wasn't mine, man.
Colombian guy.
Yeah. That would have been crazy.
There's a few boats. I think it was like, there's quite a few. I think there's like 5, 6 different boats. So. But yeah, anyway, it was just like an awesome trip. Honestly, it was like one of the highest points of my trip because like I wasn't cycling. I found this boat, and then the bicycle. It was like had no issues at all. It was just like perfect, which is almost impossible to make happen when you're traveling with a plane. And so suddenly I'm in Cartagena, after a week. So, and Cartagena was like, super, super nice place. And then like the Colombian trip started, and yeah, as I said before, I really enjoyed Colombia. I really enjoyed the people there, the cycling culture, the fact that every single day was so fucking different from the last one. And yeah, it was just like one of the most diverse countries I've been to, I think. Yeah, like I said, I think I'd like to go back there.
Yeah.
No, so same thing. Some people also would say, "Ooh, dangerous country because of the narcos, and be careful," which is also completely inflated. I mean,
Yeah.
same thing. Just don't mess up with
Right.
the narcos, and you'll be okay. But it's like self-evident kind of tip. But yeah, really had a good time. Right after this, I had to cross into Ecuador, and here, so until now, I didn't have any issues with COVID. Every time, so I'm vaccinated, and so for vaccinated people, this entire trip was just very easy because you just had to show your vaccination card. For Mexico and Colombia, you didn't have to show anything. You were like, come as you are. For Ecuador, though, the border was closed. Ecuador, the border was closed, and so I was like, how am I gonna get in? It's like it looks impossible, and I got like super lucky because maybe like 5 days before I got there, the border like magically opened in both directions, and so you could just cross with the vaccination card. I was like, wow, it's so lucky.
It's like your second.
You know, what are the odds
It's
that
like your second magic moment, right? You had the water bottle, or third, right? Not dying from the narco, the water bottle, and now this.
yeah,
Do
exactly.
you believe
Yeah,
in
I was like,
magic?
wow, okay.
Do you believe in
Sometimes I do. I'm like, wow, things are just opening up when I'm coming. And so in this case, yeah, Ecuador just like opened its border. Like it was they closed like everyone else in March 2020, and it just opened on the something like 20th or 19th of December 2021. And so I crossed on the 24th of December, Christmas Day. So that was a big Christmas present.
Nice.
Then I spent like some like nice Christmas times with some warm showers, and then crossing Ecuador was the start of the steep mountains. And at some point, I left the mountains, went to the coast, and then I had perhaps the toughest climb I had on this entire trip, where I had to basically go from sea level to 4,000 meters in one climb, which I divided in 2 days. Yeah, it was like steep. It was insanely long, and just imagine sea level to 4,000 meters. I mean, it's just not many mountains are over 4,000 meters in Europe, and so you just like climb this way. It's just it was.
I'm sure, like once you got up to the 4,000, going down was a lot easier and fun.
No, because you don't really go down. Actually, you stay in the mountains.
Uphill
It's
both
just
ways.
like you go down a little bit, then you go higher up.
Shit,
Again.
okay.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, it looked like it was kind of. And but yeah, so like there was like clearly the start of the Andes, and so like everything was like pretty steep from that point. But same thing, like maybe in this case, yeah, you need a bit of a physical condition. But in the end, yeah, you just go slower, and you know, like no hill is impossible to pass. But yeah, after this it was Peru, and Peru was so I thought they would open somewhere in January, February. They didn't, so I crossed illegally into Peru, and so it was funny as well because I was looking for the best way how to cross into Peru, like the safest way, because there was one place in Huaquillas, which is at the coast, which would have been possible, but a bit far away from where I was. And so I looked for another solution. And so I just asked again my entire network, mainly on WhatsApp. And so there's this guy who told me, oh, I know this guy, maybe he can help you. And so this man is a sergeant of the special forces of Ecuador.
Jesus.
So I'm like, why is he going to help me to cross into Peru, which is illegal? And so he's like one of the guys who, you know, is like patrolling the border. So his job is essentially to protect this from happening.
Pierre,
So where would
Pierre,
he
did
help
you
me?
join the Peruvian army? Breaking news.
No, I didn't. But so the thing is, then I asked him, like, I was thinking he's going to ask for a bribe or he's doing it for money. And he didn't until the end. He didn't. And he just said, you're an adventure guy. I like adventure guys, so I'm going to help you. And I was like, oh, man,
Wow.
fair enough.
What a fucking guy.
So he just wanted to do this. So yeah, he was super nice. So he was carrying my bike because at some point we had to cross the river walking. So we had like, water up to the waist. And so he was carrying my bicycle. I was carrying my luggage. And then, I just like entered Peru this way. And then he just said, good luck. And there I was in Peru. But so, I was like, well, man, maybe at some point they're going to open the borders. And so I can quickly come back whenever they open, because they were supposed to open in the coming weeks. Well, they didn't. So yeah, I had to do like a very complex trip, then to sort of come back to Ecuador, to then like fly into Peru. There was a really depressing moment to come back, to have like then to like book expensive flights just to, like go around some COVID absurd measures, because they were basically opening the air borders, but the land borders were closed. Although everyone knew that the land borders were, like an open house, you were just coming in, going out. No one was checking. It was just the police knew, the government knew, of course, the local people knew. It's just a complete nonsense.
Guys, I'm on a fucking bicycle, man. Like, can you not do one exception? Like,
yes, they should have. Well, they didn't. Anyway, and so then it was in Peru, and so the first part of Peru was pretty boring, because it was along the coast, which was like very desertic again, like very hot, and just like the Pan American Highway, which was really not exciting. And then you attack the Andes, and so this was like constantly going between 2,000 and 4,000 meters altitude, just crazy climbs. The highest point where I've been was 4,690 meters, so almost 4,700 meters, which is like 100 meters lower than the highest mountain in Europe, which is like crazy. So
did you experience altitude sickness?
Pretty high. No, because you go into there like progressively. So like it's like day 1 you're at the coast, day 2 you're at 1,000 meters, day 3 you're at 2,000 meters, and then you basically never go down below 3,000 meters. So going to 4,000 is actually okay. It's like, I mean, above 4,200 I could feel that there was less air and everything. So like the heart is going a bit faster. You need to like breathe more for the same effort. But it wasn't like when you take a bus from sea level to 4,000, then you'll definitely experience altitude sickness. If you're cycling, you're okay. So that was all right. But so Peru was a bit of a disappointment too. Like, I think if I wasn't cycling, it would have been easier. But the fact that I was cycling, I was experiencing really bad weather. Sometimes I had this magic combination of cold, wind, and rain, which was really hard. I just really couldn't connect with the people. I was just like so many times just this common sense that I would expect to see into any human being, which just wasn't there in so many interactions. And I will give this as an example again with the water. So I was obviously dressed as a cyclist, warm outside. My bottles are empty, and so I'm asking in Spanish if the water is drinkable. So in Spanish, it's la agua es potable or no. So potable is the word that means drinkable, and I double checked it. It's just a word. It's just
c'est comme en français, potable.
It's potable. What up? It's the same thing. And so this lady at the gas station says, yes. I'm like, perfect. So I drink that water, right? And just like fill my bottles. And so 2 hours later, I'm like explosive diarrhea. But like, it was, I had to stop like so many times to just like ask people like, do you have any toilets? No, but I'm like, I really need to. Well, we have a wall in the garden, and so I was going there, and I was like, it was, well, thank God it was only like 2 hours, but it was just like the worst, diarrhea I ever had. But like very, very quick in the same time, but very intense. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to go back to this gas station to drink water, that's for sure. But the next day,
Yelp review.
Same situation again. I'm asking this man. Yelp review. Maybe good fuel, I don't know, but definitely bad water.
I'm sorry.
The thing is, next day, I'm like, again, in the same situation where I'm like, pretty evident context of me, I need to drink this water, And so same thing, I ask like, is the water drinkable? And he says, yes. But in this case, I just double check. I'm like, but can I drink it? Can I drink it now? Oh, no, of course not. So what does the word drinkable mean for you? Like, the hell? And so then he says, oh yeah, because I thought you wanted to cook with it or to boil it first. I'm like, no, I'm not going to cook with it. I'm just like cycling. So I need to drink now. That's just what cyclists do,
My God, do you think I'm hauling a fucking stove?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, actually I had a little stove, so I could have made that water boil, but that wasn't part of the plan. And so these kind of things, just to have like other stories like this, but it's just, this common sense that you expect that just isn't there. And then it creates a distance between you and the others where you're like, well, whatever I say, we're not going to understand each other. And so I felt, yeah, like it was harder to communicate with Peruvians than Ecuadorians, Colombians, Argentinians. So there was a dog issue, there was the weather issue, there was the people issues, there was some parts were just like really not interesting when it came to the coast. And some parts were amazing, like Machu Picchu or the mountains. But in the end, I think Peru was my least favorite country of all. Whereas for other people, it is the best country.
Pierre,
so
you've actually shit on both of our next destinations. I think I'm going to cancel my flight. Fuck this.
The thing is, if I hadn't been cycling, for example, no bad experiences with dogs, maybe not the same experiences with water, definitely not the same experiences with weather. So it would have been shining a complete different light on Peru. Just because I'm cycling, there's just like so many things that happen to me just because I'm traveling this way.
Enough, yeah.
And yeah, someone who goes by bus will have a different experience.
So when I go to Peru, I won't even look at a bike.
Yeah, no. Maybe in Cusco, but otherwise. No, but in Cusco, Machu Picchu is a pretty amazing place. But yeah. Anyway, so then I crossed into Bolivia, also same thing. So yeah, that's also pretty amazing. So another lucky time. I had my flight booked from Lima to Bolivia on the 16th of February. On the 15th of February, I received a message from this other guy, by the way, other Pierre, French guy, also just traveling by bicycle, also going to Argentina. I never met him, but we were in touch just because you kind of know who is traveling in the area. And so this guy is telling me, what are you talking about? The border is open. I just crossed today. I'm like, no way. Like I had tried by like all means to cross the border before, talking to everyone, suggesting some generous tips if there was a solution that could function, and it was just impossible. And so he crossed just by showing up there. So he must have been like the luckiest guy on earth, because actually this precise day on the 15th, the border actually opened just for the first time in 2 years as well. So like no fucking way. And so like I'm rushing online to like cancel my flight ticket. They gave him back like 90% of the money, which was also like pretty lucky. And then I could cross the border by land into Bolivia. So it was basically the second time that the border literally just opened before I got there.
Crazy.
So then Bolivia was pretty quick. It was only 10 days. It was a place where I've been, where I had my longest cycling day. I did within one day 254 kilometers because it was really, really flat. I had a good wind in the bag, and I just wanted to go as far as possible.
Wow.
And so 254 luggage. So not bad. But it was really exceptional. Usually I'm closer to 130, 140. So yeah.
Wow.
And after Bolivia, I stepped into Argentina, and then Argentina was from day one like a massive change, because since I left the United States, I was always the gringo. I was like, gringo. And it's always like, this like, cycling little dollar or credit card. And, it's just in the back of your shoulder the entire time. In Argentina, the population is also very white. There's like black guys, white guys, and like, well, maybe in the South, there's like definitely more white guys and black guys. But so I didn't look like a stranger anymore. And so on the streets, well, of course, as soon as I started talking, like people knew that I wasn't from there, but otherwise, like the approach was, I was invisible again, sort of, which didn't happen since the States. And so there was like really a sort of relief. Also, the economy, the economy is a little bit funny at the moment, but in the end, the infrastructure is better, and you have like better roads. You have just little details of, for example, benches with tables for people to rest, where I could just go and have lunch and just like
the little things you appreciate in the end.
Which doesn't really exist in the world for some reason. And I just really appreciated to find benches and tables. So this was a really long country as well, because I had to go from, it was like 4,000 kilometers up to, basically up to Ushuaia. So there was, Patagonia was really, really long, really desertic. It was the same, a lot of wind, crazy wind. Sometimes it was hard to maintain my direction. So it was mentally a bit challenging as well. And then, after a while, so Patagonia was a really, really long stretch, but nothing much happened. So I'm just gonna squeeze that part. And then at some point you get to Ushuaia, and honestly Ushuaia. So as I saw the sign saying Ushuaia, I must confess that I cried. I don't really cry often, but like when I saw this, I just like tears started running, and I was like getting so emotional because I was finally there and I just reached my goal. And yeah, I was just there, after months and months of concentration and focusing on this. And the region of Ushuaia itself.
Yeah, it's a spectacular story, Pierre. Like literally, like you said that, and I got goosebumps. Like it's
same.
Man, like we can't even imagine what that is. We're just listening and are just in awe of like this amazing journey that you went through. Like it's wow, like that's amazing.
Yeah. It was amazing for me too. But again, there's many things that are not amazing at all. There's a lot of nothing also, especially in Patagonia, for example. It's important to have both in mind. It's like there's a high price for the amazing moments of a lot of nothing, a lot of struggle. But yeah, I think you got it now. I think you understood that part. Ushuaia itself is like an amazing place with glaciers and mountains and lakes and the coastline. I got there in the autumn as well, and so the entire forest was yellow and orange and red. It was just one of the most beautiful places. But yeah, so then I just stayed a few days there, and then hitchhiked back to Buenos Aires. Quickly went without cycling to Uruguay, and then took a plane to Fairbanks, Alaska. So complete change. So the trip was, in my mind, the trip was sort of finished because I reached Ushuaia. So it was like, yes, I did it. But I still wanted to finalize like the part that was missing. So the part from Alaska to Seattle. And so like I was thinking, I don't want to go back to Europe yet. I want to still do the last missing bit, which was still another 4,000 kilometers. And so, got to Alaska and cycled through Alaska and Canada to Vancouver and then Seattle. So I had like pretty high expectations from Alaska, and well, the winter this year was like really, really shitty. So a lot of rain, a lot of snow. The views were just like not amazing. So between Fairbanks and the Canadian border, and just didn't see much. But also I think it's not the most exciting part of Alaska. Like if you want to see some amazing places, rather go to Anchorage, Homer, Valdez, like the coast. That's I think a bit more spectacular. The bit between Fairbanks and Canada is just the Alaska highway that crosses land. But I mean, it is not ugly, but it's not as spectacular as you think Alaska would be, sort of.
Pierre, so you were doing this in the winter?
Like, you are a thug.
So it was the end of the winter. It was
like what month?
It was I landed on the 10th of May, so it was the end of the winter.
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, like people may think like, oh, May, like that's summer. Not up north. Up north, you're going probably till June-ish before it gets hot.
And especially this winter, which was again really late. So it should have been definitely much way more sunny.
Fuck, but you're crazy,
right?
To do that. Holy fuck!
Well, I was just thinking with the weather,
Were you ever slipping and stuff like that?
And so,
like, was there any snow when you were up there? Like, was it like slippery?
No, so there was snow at some point, but the roads were clear. So the roads were just wet, but it was never like covered in snow. So there was.
How were the bugs?
How
are the bugs? The mosquitoes.
The bugs were okay. Because again, the winter was late, so the temperatures were still like pretty cold, and so the bugs came late as well. The issue with the late winter is that the bears hibernated longer, and as they woke up, they were hungrier than usual, and so bears were like a constant worry on my trip from basically until Vancouver. It was like just bears. So I've seen. On this part of the trip, 15 different bears, so 15 different occurrences. Like
pretty close?
Sometimes, so mums was very close. Yeah. I mean, as close as basically possible. Yeah. So the very first time it was funny. It was just like, again, like what are the odds? So it's a situation where, so I had a bear spray that one of the warm showers gave to me. And so I've heard from someone that you can't enter in Canada if you have a bear spray because it's considered being a weapon. I'm like, well, it doesn't make any sense. Someone else told me, yes, you can, as long as there is a bear symbol on the bear spray. And so it's identified as being a bear spray. But so I was thinking, well, just in case, I'm going to hide it in my luggage because I don't want people, the custom people to just take my bear spray away from me. And then I'm like, all right, how do I do now?
Yeah.
And so, I could have bought another one, but these things are pretty expensive. So I really wanted to keep it. And so I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to put it into my luggage, let's say 5 kilometers before the border, because what are the odds that a bear would show up in the last 5 kilometers before the border? And since then, like in the entire Alaska trip, I didn't see a single bear. So I'm like, well, what are the odds? So 5 kilometers before the border, I'm like, well, looking at my counter, I should put my bag somewhere. But there wasn't any tree to, lean it on, no sign, nothing. So let me continue a bit further. And what do I see at the distance? A big black dot with two small black dots. I'm like, oh wait, is this a black bear? So I'm getting closer, and it is a black bear, like a mom with 2 cubs, and like tiny cubs, like the cubs from the last winter. So like the smaller they can be. So this is the worst case scenario. It's not just a little bear, like hanging out and eating grass. This is a mom that is going to defend her cubs as much as possible. And so I'm like, wow, like what can I do now? And so they're not, deep in the woods, sort of. They're like at the asphalt, like where the road is. And so I'm like remaining like 100 meters in the distance, being like, well, what can I do now? I'm not going to risk it and just try to go quick. That's not going to work. And so I just wait till at some point a car passes by. And so there's this guy, he just like, pulls the window down, and I'm like, do you think I can pass? He says, no, she's got the cubs. I'm like, all right, so what can I do then? And so then he just like actually pretty smart move. So he just like, goes backwards with the car sort of onto them so that they would just go back into the woods a bit further away. So he just does that. And so I go in the same time on the car, and then I'm off. I'm like away. Like, perfect. Then what is left now? Just the Canadian border, right?
Oh my!
No, there was another bear like 2 kilometers further before the border.
Holy fuck!
It was there. Like I'm like, no fucking way. What? Again, what are the odds? Like two bears. I mean, a mom with two little ones, and I think this one was a male one. And yeah, in this case, he was just a bit further from the road, just like eating grass. And same thing, I was still very much scared, and I like captured the little video of him, and then I could enter to Canada.
At that point, Pierre, you must have been like, I should have fucking flown home after Argentina. This was pushing it. This is how I died.
It's not the narcos, it's the bears.
I was just asking the border. I was just asking the border agent as she was validating my entry. I was like, please, like, whatever is your decision, just don't send me back to the days. I want to stay here at the border.
Yeah.
But anyway, I could come in, so that was easy. And so there's 2 types of bears in Canada. I guess you may know. But so there's black bears and brown bears. The brown bears are the grizzlies, and so the the black bears are I mean, they are dangerous, but they will mostly run away. They're not they're not going to defend the territory that much, and so they will run away, and they're not that aggressive. The black bears themselves are scared from brown bears because the brown bears, so the grizzlies, are way more aggressive, way more territorial, and might attack way more easily for no reason. And so, you should really worry about brown bears. Black bears are usually they're okay. Yeah, so I've seen in total like 13 black bears and just like 2 grizzlies. Same thing. It was like a pretty close encounter, but just like crossed the highway and then like just kept going in the woods. But still, you like, you have no protection on the bag, so if anything happens, well, it is on the news.
Literally.
Yeah.
And just to add, we do have also polar bears, which you weren't in that region, so you're lucky.
Those are the ones you definitely don't want to see at all.
No, those are the fucked ones.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, bears in general are the fucked ones. There's no Winnie the Poohs. Like, they're all fucking crazy.
Exactly.
To that story, the bears, no, like I just just saw quite a few ones, but then like nothing ever happened. But the same thing, like maybe another tip for people who might do the same. So, the first most important thing is like when you sleep in your tent, don't sleep with your food. Put the food 50 to 100 meters away. Make noise, clap in your hands, sing, just like shout. Even if you're alone in the woods, you might look like an absolute idiot, but it might save your life, and also the ones that watch you. So you might do it, and then just like make a fire, prepare some stones, so just in case. Have your best friend with you, and then you should be fine. It's just like some something you should do before. But yeah. But otherwise, I had a blast in Canada. This part of the world was really, really beautiful. Very, very much frozen when I was there, but still really nice. And when I got to Vancouver, I was like, wow, this is a place where I could see myself living. So then I quickly went to Seattle, to the same little shop where everything started. So exactly a year and 3 weeks later. And then it was finished. So the emotion wasn't the same that in Ushuaia. It was more like, all right, well, I'm back in the same place. Now I'm looking forward to move on and to close the cycling chapter and to go back to Europe, do some other stuff. But didn't find the same, emotion than in Ushuaia, but it was done. And so now my plan is actually to go back to Vancouver to look for a job there because I really like the place and I could see myself living there. So we'll see if that works.
Right. Well, welcome to Canada.
So that's it. That's my trip.
Yeah, listen, I'd love to say let's I'd love to catch a beer with you, but unfortunately our country's fucking massive and I'd have to bike for like a year and 3 weeks to go see you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, so what's next for you travel wise?
So travel-wise, I'm just gonna stay in Europe, see family, see friends. I'm gonna go to Czech Republic next week for a little festival, then to Germany for another festival. I was actually thinking to go to the Ukraine border to offer some help because I'm actually a bit like, a bit shocked that a war can be happening in Europe at the moment, and it's sort of like the media now is sort of getting used to it, and so people don't talk about it as much anymore. Yep. But well, there's still a war happening over there, and so I wanted to see if I can offer some help at the border. I still need to double check if there's help needed. Probably you shouldn't be going there just saying hello. Do you need help? Because that might
I have bear spray.
Chaos. Bear spray, yeah. That might help. But so yeah, we'll see if that works. And then otherwise, you're just traveling around Europe with friends a little bit, and so yes, and then my return flight to Vancouver is on September 10th, and at this point, I'll have to seriously start to look for a job. So yeah,
living the life.
Travel.
Fucking right.
Chapter is closed for at least another 2 years, and then in 2 or 3 years, we'll see. You can do another cycling trip or kayaking trip.
Yeah, brother.
What do you say?
Yeah, man. Well, I guess we're going to be chatting with you in a couple of years, and if you still want to tell us about your travels, because man, this was a hell of a ride. I honestly really enjoyed this story. We haven't had anybody like you, Pierre. So listen, you're a unique guy. I guess you're not unique because there's another Pierre from France who also did the same trip. And we're actually having him next week. Anyways, so listen.
What about you?
But no, listen, man. I like I said, I had a great time, and I really, really thoroughly enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pierre.
So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for listening to Two Beers Till Takeoff. Do you want free additional content or just to stay connected with the show? Then give us a follow on our social media platform. That means TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. Are you in need of podcast production services, video editing, or anything in between? Then look no further than Strut Sound Productions, the official producer of the Two Beers Till Takeoff podcast. Music produced by Alex Gagne. Check out his work in our show notes. Voiceover done by Viking Leo K. See you next week on Two Beers Till Takeoff.